If you're a student in 2024, you've probably heard the following question, either from a parent or a teacher or any other adult in your life. Do you feel safe at school? According to the Youth Truth Survey, only about 59% of students feel safe at school in general, which is a lot lower than we'd like it to be. My name is Layla, Kalandjian, a 17-year-old senior here at North Broward Prep, and I've come not only to represent my fellow peers, but also to serve as a testimonial of my own experiences addressing this issue. An issue that affects not only the student body, but also parents of students, teachers, faculty, administrators, and anyone else you can think of that's involved in the school. I'm the co-president of the Students Against Violence Everywhere, or SAVE Promise Club here at school, where we advocate for youth empowerment, violence prevention, mental health initiatives, and inclusivity all around. As we do this, or as a student in South Florida, this issue means a lot to me personally because of the occurrence of mass shootings, especially and most significantly, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting that happened right here in Parkland in 2018. I remember the day vividly because I was in 6th grade. I had just gotten done with class, and when I walked into my car, my dad told me, "There's a shooting happening in Parkland right now." I didn't know how to wrap my head around this, how something so severe could happen so close to my home. But nonetheless, I spent the rest of my night in front of the TV watching the news, waiting to see what would happen. The next day at school, a shot was misfired on campus by an officer, and we went on lockdown as well. I remember everyone was shaken up from what had happened the previous day, and we sat in the corner of the classroom in complete and utter silence. We didn't know what to do, and my teacher was frantically scrolling through her phone trying to figure out what was going on. And all I could remember was the absolute terror that I felt. I was considering the possibility that maybe this was a real shooting, and that maybe this was my last day on campus. As I reflect on that day, I can only imagine what students who were in MSD and students who face violence like this on a day-to-day basis could feel. And I wanted to make a change. Over the next few months, I spent my time consoling my classmates who had lost friends, people they considered family and loved ones, and attending memorials provided by the school. It was, once again, it was very scary. But over time and throughout the recent years, I've spent my time dedicated to organizations like Sandy Hook Promise, whose mission is dedicated to the Sandy Hook shooting from 2012. I wanted to create a welcoming and secure environment for my peers so that no one would ever feel the same way that I did, and no one would feel the same way other students did. But I realized as I got more involved that not everyone who cares about this issue can jump into such an active role so quickly because of the emotional toll that it can take on one's well-being. Today, I want to explore how students can navigate these feelings of theirs and make a positive change in their community. I want to explore how school administrators can ensure that no student ever feels scared on campus again or is in fear for their lives. And lastly, as parents, what can you do to help your children confront and navigate these feelings that they may have difficulty communicating? As we transition back to in-person learning after COVID-19, students are moving from an environment where they feel safe, their household, back to school where they may feel more vulnerable. And especially for some students, they may be in an environment where they're more prone to being exposed to violence, especially daily. And the emotional and mental toll that this takes on children is immeasurable. Let's take a look at another statistic. Of the 59% of students that feel safe at school, a high 72% of families and parents of these students feel that their child is safe at school. There's a difference here, and there's a disconnect. Students have feelings of uncertainty that they're not communicating with their parents, leaving them to feel alienated, invalidated, and alone. Additionally, there's a disconnect between students and their schools. What once was an environment where they felt safe and they felt nurtured is now a threat to them. It's now somewhere that's against them, where their health is being posed at risk every day. And there's also an inherent sense of powerlessness that comes with facing such an issue so large and so systemic. As a teenager today, you're expected to make these big changes. Adults tell you that you have to go and you have to register to vote. You have to choose your politicians, choose these policies. You have to stand up to it. You have to go and join these protests, join these movements. You have to be the one to make the change. Our generation is the ones responsible for fixing the mistakes of the generations before us. It's tragic and it's quite ridiculous, honestly, but it's really hard to navigate. But more importantly, We don't have to stand idly by while these issues keep going and while these national issues keep taking lives of those we care about. There's things that we can do as students. According to the Sandy Hook Promise organization, in 4 out of 5 school shootings, there was at least one person who knew beforehand of the plans and failed to report it to an adult. According to the organization, over 233 incidents that involved weapons at school were prevented, 16 of which were active school shooting plots that failed to go through. As students, we don't have to be the only ones making a change. We can encourage our schools to enact policies which help us. For example, I remember when our school, we changed from the school shooting drill where we would just sit in a corner like sitting ducks, waiting for a school shooter to will or will not come in and shoot us. But we switched to Alice drills, which gave us options. We could evacuate, where we practiced the routes almost on a bi-monthly basis. Or if we felt safe enough, we could lock down in the building, and we invested in locks that were better, harder to penetrate, we got training. And most importantly, we had a counterattack for if a shooter entered the room. But as a student, you don't just have to do that. There's more social aspect to it as well. We can enact an environment of see something, say something. Whether it be a joke, a rumor, or a social media post, if you see something that could eventually turn into a threat to your peers, you could speak to a trusted adult or someone you know can take care of the situation. This can help not only with bigger issues like gun violence, but also with day-to-day things like bullying and discriminatory actions. But how can we make a change in our communities if we're struggling with this ourselves? Students have to prioritize their own mental health too. There's a certain stigma that comes with this. Students might not feel like their feelings are validated. They might feel like they're alone in this. But as we open up the conversation and destigmatize it for other people, we can benefit not only ourselves, but others around us. As I joined my Safe Promise Club, I got to open up to my teachers, my friends, and we got to discuss these things. And I figured out that I wasn't alone, and that my entire atmosphere of my school had changed. We aren't alone in this, and there are things that we can do. But speaking of my Safe Promise Club, there are organizations at your schools that you can join. A lot of students aren't afforded the resources, but even if you don't have a club where you are focused on community building or violence prevention, you can be a leader. You can start your own club, and it doesn't have to be a Safe Promise Club, of course, but it can be anything that you feel would help spread your message. Overall, students are not powerless. It feels like there's a wall in front of us that we won't ever be able to overcome. But overall, we have action, and as long as we're proactive about the things that we do, and we're mindful of our actions, then we can make a change, starting on the small scale. As we take these skills with us to adulthood, we can make a bigger impact on society that not only affects us, our well-being, our mental health, but those around us, and we can begin to break down this wall that's in front of us. Once again, students are not powerless. Schools should be a place where students feel nurtured, safe, and can grow and thrive, and not a place where one fears their own life. Thank you.